Hello, I'm Barbara Clark. Welcome to another session of Explorations of Me. For October, we are looking within again. What do I do when I need me time? And do I like being alone at times? Well, yeah, I love being alone. But, I love doing art with other people too. When I need me time, you all know I work on the picture puzzles. Magic puzzles on my iPad. I do the free one every single day. And that's me time. I don't know, it seems like that's meditation time. The other thing I love to do is for inner work is soul collage, because you all know also, you might remember that I'm a Jungian scholar, student, I don't know. I'm very interested in Carl Jung and the whole idea that as we get older, we have a real need to see what the inner voice is saying. So I have a lot of ways that I explore that through my art and through soul collage. Some of my soul collage cards. Soul collage is a process started by Sina Frost. And it's just a very quick, pick 3 images that you like or images that you don't like and collage with those. And then there's a particular process that you do with it to kind of explore what the images are saying to you, why those images are speaking to you today. I like those too. But you know where I'm going with this today is not anywhere on my art table. It's into the living room. And one of the other things I do for me time just seems to disappear when I'm quilting. It disappears when I'm arting also, but it disappears when I'm quilting. I'm just back from a 2-day quilt workshop. Marianne Kumpfel. Oh my God, is she good? Big, bright flowers. Big, like a big tulip that's 4 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It's beautiful. An iris. Beautiful work. Anyway, I'm inspired by her to do more art on quilts. So that's what I explored this week, but I'm going to take you back through time and show you some of my quilts from years past as well. So this is suffice for introduction to where we're going to explore me this month, which is to the sewing table. Actually, I'm not going to demonstrate a project. I'm just going to show you what I'm up to. I took pity on you and I didn't move my camera around down the hallway. So different order. After the workshop this weekend, I came up with these 2 pieces. This is the little lines on the edges. The highlights are thread painting from the bottom, from the bobbin, putting fancy yarn in the bobbin, doing it upside down. So this is just a blank start, and I haven't started doing any stitching on this one. This is my very first quilt in 2004, a birdcage cover and a Ricky Timms pattern that he showed on Simply Quilts. This was my second quilt, and I've got it hanging in our hallway right now. Little heart pattern. This was my third quilt, so this is moving into 2005, I think. 2005. This was a class I took. This was the wild thing I saw on television. I call it blowing hexagons. And I liked the pattern, and so I figured out how to make it. This was one I made in 2005 for my sister Nancy. She died that summer, and I didn't finish it until she was gone. This is the one I consider my most beautiful quilt ever. And I gave it away to my women's group and got it back. I'm a lucky woman. This is a tiny little practice quilt at a quilting workshop, learning how to free motion quilt, practicing free motion quilting. And then You may recognize those flowers from the little pot of flowers I made. I made a pillow out of it. This was one I made as a pattern by Jean Wells, and I made it for my friend Donna, who has a wildlife business. Her house is the one with the sun on it. This is called a convergence quilt hanging in our bedroom. I've made other of those. This one is another convergence quilt, and this is one that's actually hanging at a friend's house. I sold it. Lucky me. These are two jackets that I made, one for myself, of course, and one for my friend. This was in 2009, my friend Joya. The sweatshirt jackets. This is one I made for a friend, the Raven. It's hanging in our kitchen right now because she had to move out of her house and couldn't keep it. Hanging in the hallway. This was a practice piece. Each quadrant of this is quilted a different way just to practice free motion quilting. This is one I made for my friend. It's made from a pattern also. I call it Jessie's Sunflowers. She was getting her knee replaced. This is hanging in the bathroom. It's from a Pat Durbin workshop. She's actually an internationally known quilter, and she showed us how to paint it. This is also another Pat Durbin workshop. She's known for quilts like these. And this is a little scrap basket that I saw. I bought one at a quilt show and copied it and made one for Linda that Christmas. A couple of pillows I made. One was practicing the pattern. The one on the right is practicing a pattern of a larger quilt. This is hanging in the kitchen. It's a little beaded piece, just about 8 inches square maybe. Lots of fun. I've got to do more of these. And that was where it was hanging at the show, and right now I've got it hanging on top of another piece, how I'm displaying it now. And that is the tour of the quilts. Alrighty. So I'm starting with one that I didn't make, but it's one that I'm keeping because my mother made it when she was in college. It's an Afghan. Isn't that gorgeous? So it's inspiring to me. It looks like I need to clean it. But our family had this all the time I was growing up and spending summers reading Hardy Boys mystery stories. This is a quilt I made, probably one of the earlier workshops I took. It was a kit that I won somewhere and made it into. It was one of the first times I practiced free motion quilting and did some special things up close. I'll have to put in some close-up shots of the detail of this one. I like it. It's called Moonlight in the Garden, or Midnight in the Garden. This is a more recent one that I made, also taking a workshop with a local artist, one of the venerable quilt teachers in our guild. Something that you all will recognize, probably, is these little 5-petal flowers. These are the 5-petal flowers that Shannon Green taught us how to make. So I made some extras to applique on top of this, but I also made a whole bunch of different sizes, and you can't see the detail on this, but I used the 5-petal flowers on freezer paper and pressed them. They stuck on there for just long enough to quilt around them. And so I've got the 5-petal flowers all around this quilt. This is my, I don't know, hexagon something. And also, I didn't like the plain middles, so I went around and crocheted little flowers to put in all the middles. Time really flies when you're quilting. This was a great piece. I just got it back from my women's group. It was made for one of our women's group members on her 80th birthday. We all did blocks. I ended up suggesting something to people and executing something for a lot of people, but a lot of people made their own blocks. Isn't that beautiful? That's my friend Teal, who's now in Australia. This was the block that I made representing me. Gosh, we call ourselves Hyacinth Circle. One of our members embroidered that for us for this quilt. Nancy's now in assisted living, and they didn't want to keep it anymore, so it came back to me. And there I have it. I love it. This is a recent quilt that I made. It only needs a tag on the back of it, and it's ready to go. It's going to Mountain Home Ranch in Calistoga. It was in the path of the huge Tubbs fire 3 years ago, and burned to the ground. Mountain Home Ranch, and it's a favorite place. Our women's group met there for maybe 10 or 15 years on our annual retreats, and so we have a very tender spot in our hearts for it. So this is called Mountain Home Garden, and when they're starting to have some rooms to rent again, I'm going to send them a box of new quilts to put in their rooms. Love notes from Barbara in the Hyacinth Circle. This is the most recent one I did. I want to do something with my hand-dyed fabrics. So this is a new quilt. And, you know, we end up having so many quilts in our stash, so what are we going to do with all these? Now I'm making up all these quilts. I've got to make them to give away from now on. So, and then on the back of the couch there is an Afghan that I made, believe it or not. I had been making those granny squares, making them, and actually I put them together in one big huge triangle pattern, and when I finally had enough to actually make a whole quilt, a whole Afghan, I thought, well, I don't like this very much, so I took them all apart from their they were all just sewn all together, and didn't have any of the black in it. So I took it all out. I made them into little groups of color groupings, and put the black in between, and then I really, really liked it. So that is a slow walk through my quilts.